some really big contrasts across Europe at the moment. You might have heard about the wildfires in Greece and the extreme heat that they're seeing across parts of Greece, Turkey, Cyprus. And this map here shows the weather warnings that are currently in place across much of Europe, issued by the various Met agencies in each country. And the warnings here, the red and orange warnings across southern parts of Italy, into Greece and Turkey, parts of Eastern Europe, as well as Cyprus, just off the map there. Cyprus got an orange weather warning. These are all to do with high temperatures. So, yeah, it's not just the UK that issues extreme heat warnings. These countries where you normally expect high temperatures at the end of July, it's the hottest time of year after all, in this part of Europe. These countries, when temperatures, as they are at the moment, are 5 to 10 degrees above average, there are these extreme heat or high temperature warnings, and that's what we're seeing across a large swathe of southeastern and central parts of Europe. Temperatures across Greece, into parts of Turkey and Cyprus, as I say, 5 to 10 degrees above average, and low to mid 40s fairly widely. Now you might think, well, don't they get those kinds of temperatures all the time? No, actually, it's more likely to be mid 30s, perhaps high 30s in some spots, but low to mid 40s, unusually hot. And of course, that heat and the dry air at the moment, we've got this high pressure across southeast Europe. You've got this sinking, compressing air, day on day sunshine. It's led to some wildfires. And also the heat is causing a heat low across Turkey. That's not too unusual at this time of year. That heat low leads to some very strong winds around it across parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. And so that can further hinder the putting out of any wildfires. Now, elsewhere, we've got weather warnings across northern Italy, through the Alps into south and east parts of Spain, Austria. These weather warnings are thunderstorms. So where we've got the heat towards the southeast, central parts, warnings for thunderstorms. And the reason for this is because of the unusual weather. As I mentioned, this map here is quite useful from our friends at windy.com for showing where things are particularly unusual. And this shows unusually high temperatures across Greece into Romania, Turkey there, southeastern parts of the Med, the far south of Italy. But these other colours show unusually low temperatures for the time of year for the location. So eastern parts of Spain into northern Italy, the Alps, for example, parts of North Africa. And we've got these big contrasts which are fueling, as I say, those thunderstorms. And this shows where we've got unusual amounts of rain expected on Saturday, tomorrow, 26th of July. And the blue shading here indicates that it's going to be unusually wet across parts of central and northern Italy into Switzerland, Austria, southern Germany, Croatia. And in fact, there's just a hint there for the Balearics as well, some heavy showers or thunderstorms. So it's very showery, a lot of very lively thunderstorms. We're talking about large hail, very gusty winds, wind gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour, frequent lightning and so on. So why are we seeing these big contrasts across Europe? It's because of this large area of high pressure near the Azores. And I just want to take a look at the setup for this current week. And this shows the pressure anomaly for this current week across Europe. And it shows this higher than normal pressure across the Azores, but extending towards western parts of the UK and parts of the Republic of Ireland into western France and Spain. And what that's allowing is low pressure to be forced north around it and then dive south. It then ends up toppling south across Central Europe, hence the showers and thunderstorms. And of course that has a big impact on temperatures. This is how the temperatures have compared with normal through this week across Europe. And as you can see, there are some notable red spots and some notable blue spots. So unusually hot there across Scandinavia and unusually hot as well southeastern parts of Europe. But it's across France into northern Spain, Germany, northern Italy, where temperatures have been much lower than you'd normally expect at this time of year in those areas. Marked contrast to the first half of summer where we saw some extreme heat across parts of France. It's been much cooler there this week. The UK closer to normal, but perhaps a little bit above at times. And just to take you back to the bigger picture, as I mentioned, we're going to Saturday, we've got this area of high pressure extending north from the Azores, and what that does is it forces the jet stream to the north, out to the west of the UK, and these systems topple in over the top of that jet stream and dive south. Not only that, but if we look at the upper atmosphere, where that jet stream tends to flow around the world, and what the temperature is doing in the upper atmosphere. So this is where we look at the 300 hectopascal temperature layer, or in layman's terms, what the temperature is doing at roughly 30,000 feet above the ground. And it shows quite a lot of warmer air pushed north. Remember, the jet stream divides cold air with warm air. So this area here across the mid-Atlantic is to the south of the jet stream. That high pressure pushing north is much warmer. But as the jet stream then, and let's take a detailed look at the jet stream, this puts on all the winds at that level in the sky. As it dives south then across Central Europe, we've got this cold plunge at 300 hectopascals, at 30,000 feet or so above the sea level. Got this cold plunge across Central Europe, and that cold air way up high in the sky, coming in on top of what is relatively warm land because it's the summer, it's Central Europe, it gets heated up. That causes this big temperature contrast. And you've got this upper level low. Can't quite see it on there, but yeah, certainly these swirly winds there over France, the southeast of France, over Switzerland, North Italy. These swirly winds going in circles and just sit there, basically. And there's another plunge of the jet stream there coming into Wednesday. What we're seeing is the combination of very cold air in the upper atmosphere and a low pressure system up in the upper atmosphere that causes the air at the bottom to rush up to fill that void. All those ingredients are there, combined with the very warm land because it's summer, for some lively thunderstorms to take place across this part of Central Europe, hence the very unsettled weather that we're seeing through the Alps, through northern Italy, southern parts of Germany, and increasingly across eastern parts of Europe as well. If we put on the amount of rainfall we're expecting during the week ahead, I'm going to skip ahead to Wednesday, and this basically sums up the rain across Europe from now until Wednesday next week. And it shows these dark blues, more than 50 millimetres. I suspect there'll be even more than that in some spots because of the nature of these thunderstorms, across southern Germany, into northern Italy, the Alps, and then also into eastern Europe. And there's some rain there across eastern and southeastern Spain, the Balearics. Not something you'd normally expect at this time of year. Normally you're guaranteed sunny skies at this time of year. The UK, meanwhile, not quite as wet as these other parts of Europe. Yeah, there'll be some showery rain from time to time, and some of the wettest weather will be across western Scotland as these systems push in over the top of that area of high pressure. But actually, the UK's weather is reasonably average for the next week or so. And just to sum up the week ahead, we can put one of these average pressure graphics back on. And this shows the average pressure anomaly, difference compared with normal, for the next week or so from the European model. And it shows this big area of high pressure just sitting to the west of Europe. And that's going to continue to maintain an unsettled flavour across central and increasingly eastern parts of Europe through next week. It will mean that eventually parts of Greece cool down. It's not going to be quite as hot there as we go into next week. And you can see the temperature anomaly through next week here, more unusually cool weather across Central Europe into Italy, eastern Spain, the UK turning a bit warmer. Very high temperatures continuing across Scandinavia. I checked the forecast for Rovaniemi, where Santa lives, 30 degrees later next week and into the start of that weekend. You don't expect 30 degrees in Lapland. And across Turkey, into, say, western parts of Russia, the far east of Europe, still reasonably hot at times. Yeah, so some very interesting temperature and rainfall contrasts across Europe at the moment.